So in this video, we'll talk briefly about the export functionality on your make screen. You can export your open and done manufacturing orders, as well as your open and done tasks. So if we take a look at the exports for open manufacturing orders, I'll go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. We will download an export of the manufacturing orders that are currently open. There's a lot of cool things that you can do in terms of exports. For one, actually, you can select individual manufacturing orders. And when you have them selected, you can export just those alone. So instead of having all of those orders export, I'll just export the 4. You can even do something like where you turn off the bulk actions and maybe make a filter for Jack Carpet's orders and export just those. And then you'll see that in this case, we just have 3 of them. So exporting is pretty flexible with the filters and also the selections. It's not so obvious when you're using it, but it is quite powerful from that perspective. But the information that's available in a open manufacturing order export is pretty much generally what you see currently in your existing manufacturing order page, with a few additional pieces of information, such as the ingredient status as well as the production status. A lot of those would be used for companies that want to print out their manufacturing orders for their teams and give it to them on the floor, have them work on it because they might know what they need to do, and then they just bring them back and say that which ones are completed, and then you want to just come in here and mark them as done, because all you're really using Katana for at that stage is just tracking your inventory levels. So there's that general use case for like really small manufacturing outfits. If it's more comprehensive, of course, you would probably use the shop floor app, and it wouldn't necessarily be important to print out an Excel spreadsheet for that purpose. But anyhow, you can print it out and use it in Excel for whatever purposes you might need it for. Again, apologies, I'm opening these up in numbers because I'm on a Mac, but you can still see very clearly what information is available here. The next one would be the completed manufacturing orders. They export exactly the same way. You can export them based on a specific month if you want. You can export all of the orders from last month. No big deal. Very easy. Just apply the filter, press export. You can select certain ones, select them, press export. You can filter them using these filters here, export. Really, really simple stuff to do. If we export our completed orders, the information that becomes available here is handy in the sense that it reports mostly all of the actual times that it took to make your products, and also the total material, subassembly, and operations cost, which you can then do some reporting against. For example, maybe you want to look at all of the manufacturing orders that were done in the last 3 months, and then take a look at how much each product that was made of one specific SKU type actually cost. So like, for example, in this case, I have 2 dining room tables that are brown, and their SKU is DT-R. And if I made 50 of those in the last 3 months, I can filter out the 50 of those and see how much they cost to make on average over my historical lifetime. And then maybe really be able to evaluate, okay, how was I doing with my margins on those products? Is there something I need to look deeper into to improve? So this is just one way to kind of keep an eye on your costing. When we take a look at our tasks view, you can export your open tasks as well, very much the same way, but it becomes quite a cumbersome spreadsheet, as there are many, many operations associated with all of these products. But what you can do then in that case is, if you want to just make a printout specifically for one resource, maybe you just want to make a printout for all of the orders that have to come through the table saw, or all the orders that have to come to the assembly station, you can generate filters based on that from the spreadsheet, and pass that to the team. they mark them as which ones were completed during that particular day, and then they bring it back to you. And then you just update Katana on a daily basis to reflect what was remarked on the shop floor side. So that's something that's easy to do in terms of working with open tasks. Now, you can also use the same filters as well. You can filter out all of the tasks that have to be completed by tomorrow. So if you have manufacturing orders that have deadline of tomorrow, you can just, boom, make that filter. Okay, I don't have anything on that filter, but you can make that filter and then use that filter specifically for focusing on what your team needs to work on first. Again, that should be organized on your make queue just as a good practice, but it still gives you that chance to do that, especially in cases where you're not using the automatic deadline configurator. Now, on the completed tasks list, you can export this information as well, and this is handy for reporting purposes. For example, the information it provides here is what was the planned and actual quantities of goods that went through those different resources. Also, what was the planned time and actual time that was worked with those different resources. And if you need to really get a general overview of how long certain operations might take, such as the operation being listed here, and you see that for every planned unit of production, even though the planned time might be 3 hours, but over the course of that operation being performed 400 or 500 times, you can divide that number and say, oh, well, actually what it's doing, it is doing 3.5 hours. The feedback that you can get from doing that type of reporting will help you either A, make sure that you can optimize even the operations that you've set aside for your products that you make. You might lower the limit from 4 hours to 3.5 hours for the cutting operation because you realize that it's actually more efficient than what you have planned in your budget. So it makes your team a bit more focused. The completed tasks also, if you're using the shop floor app where they're reporting in real time, then you can actually base that on operators. So this operator is doing the cutting process. Does he do it statistically in 4 hours, or does he do it statistically on average in 3.5 or 4.5 hours? So if you want to identify the workers that might need help at improving and doing better on their job, then you can also identify the ones that need some assistance. Otherwise, you can look at the operations too, and if there are some workstations, maybe you have 2 workstations that are the exact same thing, but one on average takes longer than the other, then there might be something that's related to that workstation, which might be itself a machine. And if that machine is experiencing delays, then maybe it's broken, and maybe you need to change something on your equipment. So anyway, exports in general provide lots of valuable information that you can use for business intelligence to solve any of those types of problems.